Ladies and gentlemen, it's P Dog Night.
Go! 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 Failure Sensei!
Hey everybody, it's me, P Dog Night, and I've been thinking a lot about this whole Richard Spencer, Andy Warski stream last night with Sargon and Hammer 666 and GAF and all these guys. And I got to thinking a lot about the whole question of identitarianism. And what I'm thinking is, as I watched this thing go on last night, is how similar Richard Spencer and his ideas are to the social justice movement. Okay, so the social justice movement, it talks about oppressors and people who are oppressed, and then states that the oppressed are the ones who need all the focus, and we need to do things for the oppressed. And in a sense, that's Richard Spencer's whole thing too. And he does this through identity, saying, well, in the alt-right's case, or his version of the alt-right, I should say, his version of the alt-right says, yes, the white people are becoming oppressed by all these other people, and mainly they focus on the Jews and then all the minorities. And I got to thinking, well, aren't you just a social justice movement for white people? And so that's one side of the coin that I thought about. The other point that I wish I would have been able to be in that live stream, because I had lots of questions for Richard Spencer that I would love to hear his answers. For example, as a person who is going to be displaced by this mythical white ethnostate, what if I refuse to move based on his desire to have certain people move in certain places? What do you do about that? Because my guess is, first of all, there is no great clamoring for this white ethnostate that he's dreaming of. And in fact, I don't think that Richard Spencer could find enough people to fill a small high school stadium that are even interested in this white ethnostate. I think, in the United States, we are not a culture based on necessarily race. Now, certainly people of a certain hue in this country were instrumental in the growth and the founding and whatever of this country. But at this point in time, our talent is coming from all different races and sources, including immigrants and people of different descents. And you look at what we are, what our makeup is now, and a great deal of our power and our brain power, it comes from many sources. Clearly, if you're going by demographics alone, clearly Asians, are through their, hard work and their ethics or whatever they do, have gained a great deal of power, and especially in the technology areas or whatever. East Indians, whatever. The Asians, Southeast Asian people, India, Korea, those people, and even Nigerians. My family is mostly from Nigeria. And the people who have immigrated here in my family, they're all doctors, professors, lawyers. There are groups that outperform the so-called whites too. So why would you, want to limit your state, your new state, to just the talents of whites when there are people who far exceed the average white person? And so I don't understand why you would want a country that limits your talent pool. So that's another question. And then just the idea that one of the things, I love the fact that he is getting a platform. I'm so glad Andy Warski put him on screen, because I've never really listened to him that carefully. I've seen him do some other interviews, but this time I watched with great interest. I listened very carefully to what he was saying, and it made me realize that I want him to have more platform. I want to hear from him as often as possible, because the more you listen to him, the less desirable he sounds. And what I'm saying is that I don't think you can grow any sort of movement any more than you could with the Ku Klux Klan or the actual neo-Nazis. I don't consider him a neo-Nazi. I just consider him to be just a kind of a fringe person. And reason I want to hear more, because he sounds, his whole idea is not plausible. It's not desired. I don't think there's a great number of white people who are interested in following that. And then I also don't think that, like I said, we don't want to. I want the most talented people being a part of the country that I'm in. That's kind of the culture of America, is that we can grow and gain from a lot of great people. And so I would never want to limit that. I would never want to limit that. And then I guess the last thing that I wanted to say too is and if anyone sees this, my last question for Richard Spencer. Although I grew up in a black family, and in my black family, my father's grandfather was actually born a slave. His father worked in the ice houses and spent some time as a professional boxer and did some other things. But my father was an educator. Was the first black man at his college. He had a master's degree, taught high school, taught in a high school. My mother, same thing, college educated, master's degree, taught in high schools and did some courses in the summer. Even my grandmother on my mother's side was a college professor. My grandfather, my grandfather on my mother's side was an attorney. Okay, but that's my adopted family. When I found my real family, I found out that, you know what, my mother is Irish, almost 100% Irish. All her grandparents came over from Ireland. My father is from Nigeria, so I have Nigerian and Irish heritage. Do I have in your ethnostate, if I'm talking to Richard Spencer directly, in your ethnostate, do I get refugee privilege because I am half white, I'm half your ideal, and I'm half not your ideal? Or is it just something that, an educated guy, I've got a college degree, I've raised kids, I've been married 24 years, I'm that perfect, what you call white traditional family, even though that's not even true. I mean, if you look at history, it's not the traditional family that you like to talk about, is in many cultures. But where do I stand in your white ethnostate? Or is that just for pureness, which I consider myself black anyway. I've grown up black, but I do have that Irish heritage. So just curious. So those are just some things I'm thinking about. This is the most off-the-cuff video I've done. I'm doing it on a little webcam here. I'm not even using good sound. But that's my question for Richard Spencer. But again, for those of you who have said, well, why would you even give this man a platform? I think it is important to give people like Richard Spencer a platform, because I want to hear them talk. I want to hear them hear what they think they are accomplishing, and I just even if it's just to see them say foolish things and to be able to refute the nonsense that comes out of his mouth. So that's all I got today. This is probably the worst video I've ever made. I really hadn't thought it out. This is off the cuff. But thank you for watching if you happen to see this. And I'm P-Dog Knight. I'm out of here.